What if you could create a life you don't need a vacation from? Meet Danielle Muntain, a travel, fashion and lifestyle creator who turned her passion into profit.
The dream that you have in your heart is there for a reason, and it is there because you are meant to create it into this reality.
From leaving everything behind to chase freedom in Ibiza.
I decided to buy a one-way ticket to Ibiza. Everyone I knew thought I was crazy. This time that I spent in Ibiza actually really pushed me so insanely hard out of my comfort zone. It really inspired me to be able to create a life where I could travel and have a life of more freedom.
Danielle reveals the mindset shifts, bold decisions, and strategies that made it all possible.
The largest challenge I've seen is people having self-doubt. From what I've seen, people are wanting to start when they're perfect or when they feel like they're ready. You just have to start because it's never going to be perfect.
How you feeling?
I'm so excited.
Yeah?
I feel amazing.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
I'm so pumped that we're here. We met not that long ago, like maybe a month ago. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it was like November, end of November, shooting this in December. But I wanted you to be on the podcast because when I was looking at your content, I saw a lot of where I was in your vision, in your journey, and struggling creative. Not sure how do we getting shoots? Like, I have the talent, I have the vision, and I do good work. I get great testimonials, but how do I scale this business? How do I turn my creativity into a business that is full of passion, full of fulfillment? And so when we met, I knew I wanted to have you on the show because you've done that so well. And looking at your feed, I'm like, damn, she lives an awesome life. Like, I want to live this life, and meeting cool people. So, before we dive into everything, why don't you just give everybody a little introduction, who you are, and a little bit about your story.
So my name is Danielle Muntain, and I am a Canadian travel, fashion, lifestyle, and wellness creator. I'm also a multi-entrepreneur. I've created multiple different businesses throughout the years, and I have been an entrepreneur and creator for the past decade. So I've had so much experience in this space. And actually where my journey started was even before I got into content creation, I was already in the industry. I worked as a fashion stylist. So I'm actually originally from Edmonton, and there's not an insane massive creative community there, but I was always really into fashion, and I wanted to be able to create a life and lifestyle where I could travel.
You had this vision of your life. You wanted to travel the world. Did you pick up a camera at this point, or were you just like discovering your passion? Like, walk me through that a little bit.
So actually my story started when right after high school, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And growing up, I was always a very creative person. And coming from Edmonton, it's not so much of a creative hub. A lot of my best friends and family was going into nursing and were nurses. And so I actually almost went into nursing, but something in my gut was telling me this was completely wrong. This wasn't the life for me, as I was just always very creative and I really loved fashion and traveling. So I decided to take a couple years off after high school to decide kind of what I wanted to go into. And I decided to buy a one-way ticket to Ibiza.
Wow.
So I ended up moving to Ibiza, and this was the first place that I moved out of my parents' home. Everyone I knew thought I was crazy.
Holy cow.
Everyone I knew thought I was crazy. I didn't know a single person in Ibiza. And this was
you're like 19, 18 years old at this point?
Yeah, I was 20.
Yeah, gotcha.
And so everyone thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I've always been really good at listening and following my intuition. And this is why I believe I've been able to create so many different businesses and take so many leaps of faith, because I've always been really good at listening to my intuition, even when people are maybe thinking I'm a little bit crazy. So that was the beginning of my journey. So I spent a year in Europe, and within that time frame that I lived in Ibiza, I learned more about the world and about myself than I did my entire life leading up to this. And this time that I spent in Ibiza actually really pushed me so insanely hard out of my comfort zone and really forced me to learn about the world. And I got to meet so many people from around the world in that short period of time that it really inspired me to be able to create a life where I could travel and have a life of more freedom. So that was the beginning of my journey. But rewind a little bit before Ibiza, when I was still in Edmonton, I was actually doing fashion styling freelance, and I worked for a couple different designers in Edmonton, and this actually led me to go to Paris Fashion Week with them. And so that kind of jump-started my career a little bit in fashion. And I worked with a couple different magazines down for the Cannes Shopping Festival. And that's what brought me to Paris. And then after Ibiza, that was when I moved to Vancouver. So I knew that I wanted to dive more deep into fashion. And so I went to fashion school here in Vancouver at Blanche Macdonald. And that was the main reason that I moved to Vancouver. And then almost 10 years later, I'm still here. I've lived here on and off throughout the years, but moving to Vancouver was actually really amazing because I started working full-time as a fashion stylist, and I was already in the world of content creation. This is how I got into content creation was I was already working on photo shoots and video shoots all the time. So
fashion, right?
Yeah. So I was always in charge of the styling and the looks on the photo shoots. And there became a point where I realized I wanted to have full-on creative control over the campaign of whatever we were shooting. So that was when I bought my camera. And then I taught myself actually how to use my camera, and I taught myself how to do photography, videography, editing. And I think this really goes to show that when you're super passionate about something, even if you don't have the skills or maybe you don't have the right education for it, if you're really passionate about it, you will make it work. And I think it really comes down to really believing in yourself. And I always knew that I was going to do something in content because since I was doing styling from 17, I knew that I was really passionate about it and that I was really good at it, and I really loved it. So I put the time and effort into learning how to do and create my own content. And so this was about 9 years ago, and that was when I started my Instagram. And when I started, the word creator influencer didn't exist yet. So there was bloggers, but absolutely no one that you would meet was, posting photos or videos of themselves. Actually, when I first started my Instagram, I started posting photos of the models that I was styling. And I remember there was a few friends at the time that were saying, why don't you just post photos of yourself? Like, why are you posting photos of other girls? And yeah, super interesting it was just so uncommon then. The word influencer creator wasn't a thing. No one was posting photos of themselves, like seriously, of trying to like grow their brand. Like it was very uncommon. And so I took the leap and I started doing it. And I had, fast forward a little bit of time, I had some pieces of content go viral, and it was a lot easier to grow back then for sure. And I realized actually that I really loved social media, and I loved learning about how to grow my own brand. And I was searching up YouTube videos. I was spending all my time looking on YouTube and trying to learn how to grow my brand because I didn't know anyone else that was doing this. And so that kind of drive catapulted me into like myself learning how to like grow your brand on social media and how to even do that. And so I started having brands reach out to me to create content for them.
I love how in your story that you started to create content you already had like a business in the sense that you had a job as being a fashion designer. And so you started creating content, but then as you said, you saw more success with the thing to promote. You saw more success with the actual content than the thing you're promoting, which is super cool and ironic because you found the two worlds that you love kind of combined, right? And I see in your feed, like, you still have that fashion. It's a big part of your brand, but it's not something that you're necessarily selling or helping people with. So why don't you tell me, I know you have an agency and you have a coaching business. You want to talk a little bit more about what the differences are and what does your agency do, what does your coaching business do?
For sure. So one of the biggest questions that I was asked over the years was, how was I able to create a brand on social media and how was I able to grow? And I was getting all these DMs like flooded with how do I do these certain things? And I was like, wow, this is such a need. People don't know how to do this. And, you know, there's some information out there, but there's not really like a main hub for this. So actually, this is why I created Creatorversity, which is a creator university. And this is
much needed. So
this is a online education platform for creators. So myself, as well as other experts in the creator economy, they teach the creators that are in our program, and it is a 3-month online mastermind program. So you learn everything to do with social media marketing, content creation, how to build your brand, everything from editing to personal growth to marketing.
I really like about this university, when I first started creating content, I spent, like you, hours on YouTube, and it was like one question at a time. Like, how do I edit this? How do I do this one little thing in a video? And it takes forever. So the fact that you can streamline that process for creators, number one, I can go from not knowing anything to 3 months being a full-time content creator, which is massive, right? And so you're helping. And so how are you helping these creators? Are you helping them on the creation side and the branding side? Are you helping them get clients, or is it more focused, or like, is it focused on brand deals or like freelancing? Like, where is it kind of focused?
So we cover everything, and our platform's not only just for creators, it's actually for anyone that's wanting to build a brand online. So it doesn't matter what niche industry you're in, for any entrepreneur or creator, this is the program for them. We have a evergreen program that everyone gets access to. And this is actually an online app that we have created. And so this is different video modules that goes heavily in depth with content creation, social media marketing, brand development, editing, how to get brand campaigns, brand partnerships. But our mastermind is amazing because it's actually, you get one-on-one time with myself and the support coaches. So no matter where you are in your journey, you get the exact help that you need. So from what I've seen with other courses out there, it's usually dedicated just to like one specific thing, or potentially just for specifically creators. But it doesn't matter where you are on your journey. Everyone is creating a different brand or a different business. And so our course is tailored, and we have live calls weekly. So for 3 months, there's live weekly calls where myself, as well as other support coaches, are in the program teaching and educating on different topics. And then you have one-on-one time with each of us as well. So every week on the live calls, there's an opportunity to also have a live Q&A so that you're able to ask directly live with us any specific questions that you're having in your business. And actually, for every creator that is joining into the program, you actually have daily access to myself as well as the support coaches as well. So we're like your one-on-one sidekick throughout the 3 months. So we're there with you every single day to help you wherever you are in your journey as a business owner as well.
That's awesome. What do you find is like the biggest problem? You know, we're going into 2025. What are some of the issues or challenges these creators are having? Like, do you see any common problems or challenges that, you know, your company is trying to solve?
Actually, the largest challenge I've seen is people having self-doubt. That has been a massive challenge, I would say, for most creators and entrepreneurs, is either doubting themselves or comparing themselves to others. And then this causes people to delay when they're starting. So it seems like people want to, or from what I've seen, people are wanting to start when they're perfect or when they feel like they're ready. And the main takeaway I want for people to know is that you just have to start, because it's never going to be perfect when you start. There's always going to be a period where you need to learn and grow and evolve with whatever it is that you're creating. And you're also never going to fully feel ready either. So you just need to jump off the cliff, and it's going to be the consistency of whatever it is that you're creating that is going to then give you the confidence to feel like you are ready. But without actually starting and doing the thing that is hard, you're not going to be consistent. So that has been a massive thing that I've seen with creators.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, it's amazing how we get in our own head, and like we see people, like I remember seeing a videographer when I was doing videography freelancer, and I remember I was like, how is this guy getting more business than me and I'm better than him? And I remember vividly looking at myself in the mirror and like, almost talking really negatively about myself. And I caught myself. I'm like, why am I speaking to myself so poorly? And having that self-doubt, having that, it is the, I think, crutch in a lot of creative entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general. This is why 90% of businesses fail. And this is why a lot of creators are not going to be able to succeed, I think, because it's the belief system, right? Like, what I love about your story is that you took that leap of faith, and I'm sure you had a belief that it was going to work out. Is that right?
I did, but I also really doubted myself for many years, actually. I feel like through my healing journey that I kind of went on, I guess, 7 years ago, that really started to help me gain more confidence. And this is why it's so important to have a supportive community of people around you, especially if you're starting anything new. If you're starting a business or starting any new content, having a supportive community around you is super important, because you go through so many like limiting beliefs and like mindset blocks as an entrepreneur and creator. So if you don't have, you know, the means to kind of work through those, then it can be a little bit challenging to move forward. So having a supportive group of people around you is super important.
I think since, you know, what's happened in the world and in 2020, 2021, it's like we're craving that so much more. And it is so underrated that like how powerful community can be, and having that support system. And I think that self-doubt is because we don't surround ourselves with people. Like, it's almost, we believe it's not achievable. But the minute that you meet someone online or in person that it's achievable, it opens the doors to possibility.
100%. Right? And actually, when I first lived in LA, I've lived in LA on and off throughout the years. And when I first moved there, I was surrounded by so many high-level entrepreneurs and creators, and that really opened my eyes actually to see what actually is possible. So I think surrounding yourself, whether it is community or getting help from certain coaches or educators that can help you like expand your mind to what actually is possible, because literally anything that you think is possible is possible. You just have to be able to implement the right strategies to get there. But I think that really having a good mindset is actually number one to anything that you're creating. And also protecting your dream. Like when we're starting out with anything, it's not going to be perfect. So not being hard on yourself when maybe you're not seeing the growth that you want, or, you know, you see that Sally's doing better than you. Not comparing yourself for the first, I think, few years at least is super important. And everyone's journey is different as well. You never know that on year 5, you might pop off or your business might take off. And I think that a lot of people now want like that instant success, or like want to go viral instantly. But for the most case, that's not going to happen. And this is why I'm such a big advocate for doing something that you're passionate about, because then you're going to put the reps in that are needed to actually make that thing you're creating successful. So whatever it is that you're creating, having at least some sort of passion behind it, because it does take a lot of work for anything to, you know, become quote unquote successful, I guess. And so as long as you're willing to put in the work and energy and time and effort, it will get there. And you don't know the time frame either, you know. And it's like with any business, it's going to take years of hard work and consistency. So I think the main thing for anyone is really to figure out what it is that they love and what they would love to spend the rest of their life doing, because it's going to take time and consistency. So I think patience is a really big thing as well.
You know what I love about the advice you're sharing right now? It's not cliche in what do a lot of creators say. You know, this style of content, or this is how you go viral. You're actually going into the root problem of what us as creatives, as entrepreneurs are really, really facing. And it's easy to go on YouTube and like, how do I scale my business, or how do I get clients, or how do I get more clients as a freelancer, whatever. But the reality is that most of the work is the internal work. The biggest changes we can make to grow and expand our vision and our business is the inner work, the inner child work, the getting over that self-doubt. It's all that stuff. And I've been lucky enough to work with, interview, and be in proximity with over 30 millionaires this year in 2024. And the coolest thing that they all said, the number one thing they all had in common, which you just said right now, is that belief. They have such a strong belief that they can make it happen. If you don't have a strong belief system, if you don't have that core, which is like really the root of what more creators and entrepreneurs need to hear, and which I love that you're talking about it, right? Because we could easily talk about the tips and the tricks and the hacks, but we're getting into the deep-rooted stuff. And this is why people need to listen to this conversation, right? And so what I'm curious about is when I think of an email coming through that says Samsung, I'm sweating. I am like, whoa, they want to work with me? Like, no way. Like I want to know, were you ready for that? You said earlier, like, you know, start before you're ready. Were you ready for that opportunity? And walk me through the story of how that happened. Like, I'm genuinely curious.
For sure. I was definitely ready for this. So this was a few years ago, and this goes back to why I believe I've been able to manifest certain things in my life, if you want to say, is I've had a very strong practice of looking inward and really being true to myself, true to my authenticity. And I've spent a lot of time healing things that I've gone through in my life. And I really think that that's the foundation. And clearing away any limiting beliefs that maybe you don't deserve it, or, you know, that you don't deserve a certain thing in your life, or any limiting beliefs that you may have gotten passed down from childhood. This usually happens. And so through doing different breathwork facilitator trainings throughout the years of traveling to around 60 countries and studying in different parts of the world, it's what I think catapulted a lot of my success and business success. And this doesn't mean that you have to travel to different countries to do this, but having practices that make you look within and ask deeper questions of, you know, why you're here, and certain questions of what your purpose may be. And through doing breath work, this really allows you to release anything that no longer serves you and let go of specific traumas in your life. And so that was my case of healing. And this was about, I think, 7 years ago when I got introduced to breath work. And for Samsung, I really believe it was through doing a lot of my daily practices of that make me feel really good. So I do a lot of breath work and meditation and journaling, and I really believe that a lot of these tools help manifest.
So
and
you
I've
manifested Samsung. That is one heck of a manifestation. That is awesome.
Yeah, so this was a few years ago that I got asked to be the featured creator for Samsung, to be highlighted as the creator of the year for the launch of their Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra phone, which was really crazy because this was right before I launched Creatorversity. So this shoot was pretty insane. It was in Toronto, and this was definitely a full circle moment for me, because many years ago when I started fashion styling, I would often work on large scale shoots like this where there's maybe like 30 or 40 people on set, and you know, there's tons of like hairstylists, makeup artists, fashion stylists, there's different directors, and so this was a full circle moment for me, for sure, of being the person that was featured on the shoot. Yeah, it was a super fun campaign. It was such a full circle moment because I was actually just about to launch Creatorversity as well. Mm-hmm. So I felt like this was a little nudge from the universe that I was taking the right steps and I was doing something right. If you know, I'm getting a campaign with Samsung to be their featured creator in Canada. So that was really a full circle moment for me to be on a set that was very like, to be on a commercial set that was at that scale, and to get to talk about entrepreneurship and my journey as a creator with Samsung was amazing. And it was definitely a pinch me moment.
So you just had this awesome shoot with Samsung. Was this, did this birth the idea of starting a university, starting a coaching business? What is the reason behind why you wanted to start a coaching business? For
many years, my DMs were flooded with people asking, how are you able to build a brand? Or how do you edit this way? How do you make your feed cohesive? Or how have you been able to grow a following on social media? Or how do you create your content? And so I was getting asked so many questions, and I realized there was actually no education hub for creators or entrepreneurs specifically for this. And all of the, you know, university programs out there are very outdated for anyone that's going into marketing. It's usually many years old, as this industry is ever changing and ever evolving on the daily. You have to keep up with so many trends, and with platforms consistently, you know, updating and shifting. This was something that I saw that was super needed. And it was also what I wish I had when I first started. So this was around the first time that I went to Bali, was when I started to go full-time at this. And actually I realized that Bali was kind of the main hub in the world where there was a lot of people that were doing content creation or doing different types of careers, having online businesses. And it was sort of this hub where there was a really amazing community, and I met so many amazing creators and entrepreneurs in the space that would be super helpful to, you know, help teach and educate. And so actually I kept going back to Bali for many years to have sort of a community of creators and even just people that, you know, you can learn and grow with. So I spent probably, I want to say like 7 years of traveling to different places around the world to even just like learn how to create this. So I don't want other people to have to do that, because it was very time consuming and a lot of hard work. And so I wanted to create the platform I wish I had when I first started, because there was no education on how to do this. And actually it was very hard to find people that would actually share information of how to grow, you know, a platform, or how to get a campaign, how to pitch a brand. There was no information for this. And it's actually still very hard to even find education for this.
For sure. It's really, really tough.
To this date.
To this date.
Which is wild.
It's true. So with that said, because there's such a lack of that education, why you give us some education? If you were to, we're coming up to 2025. So I want to do an exercise with you. If you had to start from zero in 2025 and you want to grow the following, grow the business, you can keep all the same skills, like walk us through how you would do that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't, just like an idea of like, what would you do if you had to start from zero?
If I had to start from zero, I would go hard at content. That's all I would do. So even if you don't know how to create, just starting so that you can begin the learning process, because your content is always going to evolve and change, and your ideas are going to change as you grow as well. So creating as much content as possible, learning how to create content and learning how to grow a brand, that is number one now for any type of business. It's actually just as important as your actual business, which is so crazy. And so really taking it seriously and trying to create almost every day. And so the more that you're consistent, the better that you're going to be. So, and also now it's so important to be authentically you. Don't try to be like any other creator that's already out there, because people are actually going to feel that. And what's the most important thing to even grow an audience? You want an audience that's going to resonate with you, and you know, that's going to love you for you. So being as authentic as you can when you show up online, that is super important as well. And that's also going to make you stand out from other people. And so there's room in this industry for everyone. So
Preach.
Don't make that a limiting belief that you think, you know, it's 2025, it's too late to start. It is absolutely not too late to start. In the grand scheme of things, we're still in the dinosaur period for the internet, if you think about it.
It's true.
So don't be too scared to start or think that you're too late. You're absolutely not too late. And I think honing in on one platform to begin with is super important. Not trying to spread yourself too thin, and either going hard with either Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, and you know, if you have the means to do, you know, 2 to 3 platforms, then definitely go for it. But I think that if you're just trying to go hard at one platform is definitely going to help. And then posting very consistently. So creating good content is also important as well. So, you know, I'm not going to tell you to invest in like a $10,000 camera right now, but our iPhones and smartphones actually take amazing content. So I don't want you to not make content yet because you don't have a camera. You can start making content if you have a phone. And so it's not always about, you know, how clear your content is. It's about what you're doing with the content, or like what your story is. So sharing about your story and why you're doing what you're doing is actually so important when you're building anything now, because we've seen kind of this shift in culture where people want to support brands that are going to resonate with who they are as a person. So like what kind of values that your brand or your business has. Sharing this with your audience is going to bring in the right people to you nowadays as well.
Are you yes or no for niching down? Which one? Which one? Which side are you?
Great question. So I think in the past I would have said niching down. However, from my experience over even just the last couple years, so I think that a lot of people get stuck thinking that they have to niche down. And actually, I want to say that 2025 and the years to come, however many contrasting niches that you have within your brand is actually going to set you apart.
What I love about what you're saying is, so you're on the path of no, you don't need to niche down, right? And I feel like it's so relevant in today's 2025 world, because we all have a very unique perspective. And what's interesting is that you and I both love creating content, but you and I have a very different creative lens, a different creative perspective, which will attract different people to you versus to me. And so having that perspective has really helped me understand my personal brand, where Kyler's perspective on the world and how he sees it is unique to Kyler, and people who share with that perspective or belief will follow me versus some other Joe Schmo who's not as good looking and good as content as Kyler. So what I love about what you're saying is this whole idea, like, do I niche or do I not niche? The idea, I think, that people struggle with is they don't know their own perspective. And I want to get your take on that, in that when we understand that I have a perspective that podcasting is the best medium to create content because of how depth we can go into story, into struggle, into strategy. We can do every type of content we can make from a podcast, right? And that is my perspective and my belief, and someone else might have a different perspective and belief, and thus although we both create content, you see what I'm saying? So I love what you're saying in that this debate of niche down or not niche, it's not really about the niche, it's about, in my opinion, the perspective. What do you think about that?
It's about the perspective and your intention of why you're doing what you're doing. So I think before you even start, you need to ask yourself deep questions of what is the intention of why you're even starting? Why are you creating this brand? Why are you creating this business? Is this because you want to create it, or is this because you think that you might look cool by creating it? So really being sure that this is something that you absolutely love, and that this is a part of your purpose and mission and vision behind the life that you're creating. And I truly believe that every single person on the planet has a specific message that they want to share with the world. And everyone has their unique magic and their unique voice and vision of what they want to set for themselves and how they want to inspire the world. And so, you know, whatever platform that they want to choose, whether it's podcasting or YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, you know, it's going to be kind of relevant to what it is that they're wanting to create.
I love that. I think you just made that 10 times better by putting purpose next to perspective. Having intention and a reason why will help you be relentless and consistent. So like you said this earlier, that the big challenge that we all have, like, and myself included, is consistency. And when you define your purpose and you have and it connects deeply to you, I want to, you know, impact 1 million creators. That is a purpose. I can get out of bed in the morning and I can do my breath work. I can manifest. I can work on my on fixing that negative self-talk, and then I can not be afraid to show the imperfection of my content, because no content we post is perfect. No. It can, as a creator, you and I can both agree, we can spend more time editing videos and it makes it worse, right? And so it's almost like the constraints around that, hey, I need to post every day, meaning that it's going to be imperfect, it's okay, and that's going to create the actual dream life that I want.
100%. And I think that's something that's so crucial whenever you're creating anything from scratch, whether it's a business or a brand, or you're creating your brand as a creator, is knowing your purpose, because that is what's going to drive you when you have months that are not going well, when you even have years that might not be going well. You need to be connected to that inner fire and that inner knowing of why you're here on the planet and your mission and vision and purpose, because if you're not connected to that, when times get really rough and hard, which all of us face in life, you know, then this is what's going to keep you consistent with whatever it is that you're creating. And also knowing that not to be down on yourself when there are moments where you do need to take a pause and where you do need to take a break. And I think that every entrepreneur and creator goes through that at some point in their journey. And I think that, knowing when to pause is also a really hard lesson that I've had to learn throughout the years, because, you know, when you're creating something that means so much to you, it's hard to stop, and it's hard to take breaks. And that's something that was a big lesson that I had to go through a couple years ago, for sure, of hitting burnout for the first time ever. So there's so many things that I want to talk about as we come down to like land this plane, this podcast plane. I always make that analogy. Is there any message that you want to convey to someone watching, listening to this right now? Because right now they're in a situation where you were, where they were maybe not confident, maybe not sure if they want to pick up that camera, or maybe they already are well established, but they don't believe they can get to that next step. Like, is there any message you want to share with that person?
feel free to say it now.
So the dream that you have in your heart is there for a reason. And it is there because you are meant to create it into this reality. So try not to make decisions so much regarding your dream from your mind, because your mind will absolutely play tricks on you and tell you that you cannot achieve the thing that you want to achieve, and to follow your heart and learn to listen to your intuition and your heart, and it will always take you to where you're meant to be.
Hallelujah. Praise, preach. Love that message. I could not agree more in that if I did not pursue my dream, my passion, my love for creating, and I was in a, making good money at a 9-to-5, but not fulfilled, not happy. If I didn't do it, I could not imagine like this life, that I get to live, the opportunity to meet cool people like yourself, to travel, to do everything that I was meant to do. So I absolutely love everything you're talking about and saying on this podcast. Is there for someone discovering you for the first time, where can they learn about you? Where can they learn about the university or your agency? Where can they discover more about Danielle?
So you can follow me or look me up on Instagram at Danielle Muntain. And my website is daniellemuntain.com. If you're wanting to look up Creatorversity, you can find us on Instagram, or you can also go to creatorversity.com as well.
Now, the last thing I want to mention is that the 1% of people that watch or listen to this will actually go and click on that link and make a change. And I want to invite people to actually, the first step in change is the click. So at least click on something. All the links will be down in the description below, but don't wait anymore. Don't wait for another video. Make the decision at least to change, do something, do another action, because without action, we will not pursue and get this dream life that we want in 2025. So without further ado, thank you so much for coming on the pod. It was amazing to have you. I can't wait to have another episode with you. We can dive into so many different conversations about manifestation, about all the healing practices that you do, and how that plays into business, because it's an underrated thing that a lot of people don't talk about. But anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.